I'm going to tell you exactly which one you need to buy. Pouring Bud Light all over him. Jerpo Tech here. Today we're talking Nano Texture. Who should save their money and go with the standard glossy panel? Two words that Apple uses you to charge an extra $300 on top of your $3,000 display. I've used both, and I've got both sitting right here on my desk. So what is Nano Texture actually? All right, real quick. Nano Texture is like Apple's anti-reflective glass treatment. Instead of putting a coating like on top of the actual display, they etch the glass itself at a nano level, hence the name Nano Texture. It kills reflections without making the image look like too washed out like a lot of the cheaper, matte displays do. But let me make this very clear. The image still looks sharp. It still looks premium. And I'll be honest, when I first got my 32-inch Pro Display XDR, I was not sure that I wanted the Nano version, but it was just, it was the deal that presented itself to me. And for the longest time, I thought, do I miss the glossy version? I thought, does glossy look better? Is glossy, is it punchier? And yeah, it is, side by side in the dark room, with the windows shade, windows closed, lights off. Glossy wins. Yeah, like nobody works in a dark room all the time, though. At least I don't. So here's who I think actually needs Nano Texture. Like if you've got windows in your office, and I mean like real windows that really shine a bunch of bright light into the room, Nano Texture is going to change your life. Like seriously, like I've used my shades open all the time. And this past week with the Glossy Studio Display XDR sitting on my desk, they've had to remain closed like every day. And that's kind of annoying, I mean, I understand I painted my entire studio matte black, but that's for the vibe.
Bruh.
And even if you're doing color critical work, photo editing, video editing, color grading, you've heard all the arguments about why you need the glossy panel over the Nano Texture. But I'm here to tell you otherwise, because the reflections aren't just annoying. You're just staring back at your ugly mug, squinting back at you, trying to figure out why does this look so strange? Before you realize you see yourself, and then you can just never unsee it ever again. If you're on this video, like I'm sure you've seen an MKBHD video. They always look on point. The colors always look great. Contrast looks good. Like he and his entire team, they all use Nano Texture. They're all Nano Texture users. So after reviewing images of these two display options, like side by side, I don't believe that contrast is affected as much as everyone on the internet, tries to make you believe. And another little thing to think about, if you're somewhat decently tall like I am, like I'm 6 foot, maybe 6'1" on a good day with the right pair of shoes, and you use a standing desk like I enjoy using most days, you're going to be tilting that display up. And as soon as you tilt a glossy display up, you're basically just pointing it at every light source in the room. The Nano Texture on the display just handles it without you having to worry about it at all, allowing you to orient the display any way imaginable, point it up, down, whatever. So Nano Texture seems like the bee's knees, right? Here's where I'm going to save some of you some money. If you're in a controlled environment, controlled lighting environment, like a dedicated editing suite, a basement office, a room with blackout curtains, you're color grading the latest and greatest IMAX movie somewhere, expensive, whatever. You don't need Nano Texture, and you don't want it. The glossy panel looks better in those conditions. The colors pop more. The blacks can appear to look deeper. If you're primarily consuming content, watching movies, YouTube, that kind of thing, glossy is going to give you a bit of a more cinematic experience in the dark. I don't know who's spending this kind of money to just watch Netflix and YouTube videos, no judgment. And look, if a budget is any concerning factor at all, the glossy version is the move. The image quality difference is minimum, if any at all. Honestly, it's pretty subtle in good lighting and most environments. And Apple even claims to have an anti-reflective coating on the standard non-Nano Texture model that does a, pretty decent job in most scenarios on its own without the Nano Texture. But you're really paying for the anti-reflective treatment, that nano etching that happens inside the glass. So here's where I land with all this. I've now used both monitors, both Nano Textured Pro Display XDR on my desk and the Glossy Studio Display XDR next to it. And, every single morning I come in this office, and when I sit down and open my window shade, I prefer to look at the Nano Texture display, like every time. I just, my eyes are more drawn to it. It's more comfortable to look at. It just looks better to me. Is it worth the extra money? For me, yeah. For you, it depends entirely on your setup. And I think that's the answer kind of nobody wants to hear, right? But it's the honest one. What works for me won't necessarily work for you, and what works for you won't necessarily work for everybody else. It's just how it is. You have to try both. Take advantage of Apple's return windows, and if you're on the fence about one or the other, try it. Don't like it, return it for the other one. It's as simple as that. Apple really wants you to love the experience with the monitor that you choose. Anyway, yeah, that's all I have to contribute on, the whole nano versus non-nano texture topic. Keep in mind, I've been fully converted to Team Nano, so, at this point, maybe I'm a little biased. Take everything I said with a grain of salt, but Nano Texture, for me, has been the way. And, if you found any of this helpful at all, drop a like. It actually helps way more than you think. And leave me a comment down below, like Glossy or Nano Texture. What team are you on, and what monitor are you running, and why? I am genuinely interested to hear what everyone else is running. I just love nerding out, talking tech stuff. And, whatever perspective you have, I guarantee will help somebody else who finds that comment, because I know I'm always digging through the comments looking for some other perspectives. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and Jerpo Tech out. I saw Post Malone before he popped off. I was literally an arm's length away from him as he was performing this little, it was at a horse race here in South Florida. This was like literally before his first single had just come out, and he hadn't even blown up yet. And at the end of his performance, he was like smashing the mic on top of his head like that. It was like, pouring Bud Light all over himself. Anyways, Dripotech out.